Beautiful evening, and thank you again for coming into the leadership space where we consist- consistently explore richer opportunities to view leadership and redefine leadership. So, this is Patrick Uduma, and I'm excited to share some insights and as we explore the inner richness of a leader, the inner richness of a leader, the inner richness of a leader. And because in leadership, they hardly explore us on the what we call duality of life. Duality of life is where we begin to exit between what we call bad and good. Excuse me. Bad and good, where we lead either from a place of completeness or we lead from a place of brokenness. And how we respond to life is a function of our deeper self, our inner self. So I'm going to be delving into the richness, the inner richness. And if you follow me, if you've been following me, will always say, are you doing life or life is doing you? And most times when leaders say leading people are quite difficult, I've said that several times as well, too, that leading is such a difficult place. And it's a difficult place because our inner state, the state of our inner personality, has a lot to dictate or influence on how we connect or define the external world. I want to thank everybody. I can't see all of you. I think of format it's there. Special 9494 it's here. I don't know the other people. Okay, right. Treasure join. Thank you so much for joining us. This platform is where we explore leadership, and this leadership is first of all targeted towards us leading ourselves, experimenting our leadership within us, and this leadership within us will help us to lead externally. And if we say that if you cannot lead yourself into betterment, it's more likely you can't influence people into betterment. Because leadership for me is a present ability to become a vehicle that observe and notice or realize the potential within you or within people, ability to be that vehicle that will unlock those potential, become a vehicle to systemize it, strategize it, and methodologically bring them from where it is in potential form to possibility form. So meaning that when you lead yourself from a place of littleness to a place of bigness, whether it's the big thinking or little thinking, whether you shift your focus from the place of, how people say, I have a small business. But when you move from small business to a growing business, it means that you have shifted your conversation from a place of stagnation or limitation to the place of improvement or development. We want to lead you from where you are, from a place of reactional state to a place of responsibility, or where you are, life will say, like whether the business is doing you or leadership is doing you. But this is where what we want to do is be able to ability to influence yourself to become a better version of you, to to become a better person, to be able to access your larger self, your nobler self, your more extreme self, and your nobler self, and your bigger self, and your larger self. I always say that, honestly, to the extent that we recognize and realize and begin to activate our larger self, we will not be able to have enough capacity to navigate the detours, the curveballs, and all the complexity of life. And now, as leaders, we're supposed to be innovative, we're supposed to be creators, we're supposed to be such prolific and proactive in our thinking. But to the extent we do that, is a function of how we have realized our largeness, our power, our authority within us. And it is important to know that until you begin to unlock your richer self, your higher self, your bigger self, your extended self, your expanded self, your nobler self, it will be difficult to influence yourself to such a high degree of accomplishment. To accomplish externally is to accomplish within. For you to find out, for you to blow externally, it means you have proportionately and exponentially blown within you. And it is the external manifestation is a reflection of the internal state of being. The external manifestation or attainment, achievement, or successful thing is a reflection of your internal state of being. And that's why I'm bringing this inner work, so that the more we unlock and find this higher self, better us, larger self of us, it will begin to dictate how we find solution. And you realize that we cannot solve all the problem as leaders. We just need to understand the richness of our higher knowledge, our heightened awareness, our expanded awareness, which revealed how powerful our strength. That's how we begin to define, begin to connect and relate and be able to define and profile solutions. If there's anything in the life that is troubling you, bringing you to confusion, don't find the solution. Find a higher you. Your higher you bring a higher resolution. Like you have a TV, and for some of you who are in tech, the higher resolution will bring a broader picture and magnifying the picture and make it bold and stronger. That's how it is that don't seek to solve a problem. First of all, seek to find your magnified you. There's a magnified you that put on the lens of magnification. So now it means that if I magnify my perspective over a situation, I have a broader sense of knowledge. I have acumen that will help me to create solutions over there. So people want to solve a problem. Yeah, it's good to solve a problem. Have you noticed that you can never solve all the problem? So it means that the higher you are, the more problems diminishes automatically, because you expresses, you have the capacity, you have the capability, you have the insight, you have all the tools that you have developed. That's why personal development is so powerful if you're going to be a great leader. Personal development is so powerful if you're going to be a strong leader. I read something from the Good Bible, good book. It says something that if you fidget in front of a wicked leader, a wicked person can represent obstacles like walls, what we call frustrations, and all that, right? Now, so if you fidget in front of a wicked leader, wickedness can be that job that you think is not worth it, or that boss that seems to be toxic, or that colleague, or that family challenges. You see, when we say we are frustrated, it's because we have embodied our weakness rather than enthroning our higher life. So he said, if you fidget in front of a wicked person, it means your fountain is rotten or is polluted. Woo! Thank you, Abigail, for joining us. Good evening to everybody. Thank you, Treasure, for joining us. So, and that began to let me know that the problem is not the external obstacles. The issue is not the frustrating trend. The real issue is ability for me to understand it is within me, the capacity is within me to be able to influence my personality or my essence on that to find solution. Because I like the Good Bible. It's very rich for me. My concept, my management and leadership concept. And it says something that if you faint in the days of adversity, it means your strength is small. Bring your friends, people who are struggling in their leadership, leading themselves into a better place. Invite your friends, invite everybody who you know. This topic is really going to help everybody. So when we struggle in life, what makes us struggle is that we are focusing on external issue and have labeled them and tagged them. In fact, once you label and tag, it limits. Anything you label, and realize that the moment you label something, it carries energy, and that's how you feel. And how you know that you're frustrating is labeling. When I hear people say, oh, the present government, or talk about the present government, for me, it reveals that they have not been able to recognize they're powerful. They're powerful. Yeah, they're powerful, how powerful they are. So, you realize that when you begin to recognize you, and you cannot be frustrated. So there's a flow from a tank. Let's say you have a tank that runs into in the house. Now you remember that if your house have let's say like a 500 liters, that 500 liters will be so limited. Maybe if you have more people in that house, you realize that 500 liters may not last 1 hour. Now, when you increase the capacity of that tank from 500 to 1,500, you realize that it will submerge the people. But when people increases on the utilization, it poses a challenge. Don't look at the people, look at the tank. Because the increase of the tank will automatically influence the supply system. So the problem is not that the tap is going down. You have to always look at the tank capacity. Now, if you increase that tank to 3,000 liter capacity, do you know what happened? You will realize that you are not afraid. And so this is how inner richness of a leader will influences the external struggle, will influences the defenses and the challenges, the curveball, the obstacles that comes us. So what we want to do, please ask a question we need to ask. Chi, Mickey, thank you for joining us. Choice, good to see you here. Good to see you. It's been a while. Good evening. So today we are talking about the inner richness. How your inner richness will be able to lead you and influence you and start changing the words that you use. In fact, how you know you're tapping into your inner richness, it begin to affect your choice of words, because words are energy. Words can reduce you, words can inspire you. Your language will determine how you tap into, how rich the depth, the massive construction of the inner self will be exactly equal to how you respond to external life. So if you are still hating your life, if you are depressed, if you are discouraged, if you are worried and anxiety, it is showcasing that it is a revelation that your inner richness has been depleted. And because of that depletion, it automatically going to affect how your external relationship and definition and label will be. What do I mean? For instance, now, if for instance you have a challenge with managing cash now, and you are always said, there's no money, oh, I am broke, oh, things are too difficult, oh, hey, there's always a complaint. Every time there's a complaint, if your complaining factor is more than your creative words, it means your inner self is broke. And so complaint is an indication or is a reflection of how rich or how poor or how weak your inner richness is. The depletion of your inner self will affect your external world. And so, how do we do this? So when I started doing inner works, there were characteristics that I put on that helped me to know that I'm improving and I'm showcasing my larger self and my bigger self. One of those characteristics is defense. Every time a leader is always defending, he's never right, he's never wrong. He get it all right. He's the only person's opinion that is right. Any sums of opposition, you see that the leader will feel disrespected, will dishonor. Who is this person? That defense, when a leader is, somebody said something. Okay, thank you. He said, Special said, question, you said we should focus on trying to get a solution to the problem we face, but seek to find our magnificent, that means our higher self. And which you also say that the higher we are, the more our problem diminishes. So how do we reconcile the fact that the higher you go, the more challenges we are bound to face? How is it possible to a higher and face lesser problem or challenges? So can you emphasize this? So let me take on this question. Thank you for bringing this. I mean, we need to be careful really how we tap into what people say, including what I say, because sometimes we say something that's also progressive. And I have said this. We always say that the higher you are, the bigger problem you have. In contrast, let's assuming that, let's use gas. When you are using gas, you bought like the camp gas. And the camp gas is, you can pray. There was a time I was praying for camp gas to last for 1 month. I will be praying for camp gas to last. And now, at that moment, what I needed to do was to develop my capacity to influence my financial world. And so when it influenced my financial world, I will have option. Now, at that moment, I have limited option. I just want option of to fill my gas, my small gas. But when my higher self is enthroned, what happened? The problem I'm going to face will not be the same problem of praying for camp gas to be 1 year. No, it will not be a problem of choice, whether I want to buy 20 kg, or I want to buy 35 kg, or I want to buy 150 kg. It will not be a function that I'm praying about it. You see the challenges. The challenge here was there was insufficiency, and so it affects how I related with gas. But now, the higher I go will now be a challenge of choice. It wouldn't be like I'm speaking from the place of non-availability, but now I'm speaking from the place of choice. Now, let's say, for instance, when I was earning 10,000 naira or 100,000 naira, right? I could use 2 pairs of shoes, and it was enough because that's my money. When I start earning 500,000, I'm likely going to go now into a problem of designers. It wouldn't be like, oh, I can't afford it. You see what we're saying? It will change. The problem we are going to change first is, okay, because now when I wear designers, people are going to understand my design and place more demand on me. So at that point in time, it will now be a question of choice, whether to do or not to do. But this one, I was incapacitated because I do not have sufficient. Now I have gone a bit higher, and now my higher will challenge me, will pose a different kind of construct, no longer the former construct. So you see, when you are living in 1 bedroom, for instance, that you may not need like a pumping system. Everything was okay. But when you now choose to move into a duplex, now you're on a higher life. So it requires more complex ideas and more complex demand to be able to get in. Now, because you have been able to mature into simplifying those complex in a smaller place, it's easier for you to deal with it in a bigger place. But you now begin to find out, how do I now modify it through prioritizing, to prioritize my requirement to fit into where I am. So the higher you go, the problem changes in status, no longer as it is. Because now, for instance, if I was the challenge of the gas, I cannot be praying for gas any longer. Honestly, what I would now be challenged would be, should I buy 120 kg so that it will last me for 6 months? You see that the demand are quite different. If I now move into where I produce gas, you see that the challenge of gas is quite different, because I will be thinking, how do I sell? How do I give other people? Because I have enough. In fact, having enough on its own poses another challenge. You see, that's why we come to continue to find your higher self. Higher self is not just a state, it's a movement, it's an evolution. So the more you move and acquire your higher self, the more your higher self begin to influence the lower self. So, like I was saying, how you know that you are leading yourself from a lower you to a higher self is when you begin to get comfortable with criticism, when you begin to get comfortable with other people's idea, when you begin to get comfortable with challenges, accepting them is what I'm going to be dealing with today. Five concepts I want to bring out in inner life. When you become less defensive as a leader, you already have opened yourself into a higher you, because now you are like the sky. You know, the sky has so much space that it accommodates without judging. Let me say that again. When you move into the space, higher place, it can take multiple aeroplanes at the same time. But when you come down, you have to plan the landing of aeroplane sequentially, because the land is not sufficient. You see why we want people to move from the lower range into a higher place, Because a higher place, the higher you go, the more spacious you have, the more space you have to operate. Limitation is because we find ourselves in a lower place. And why this is so crucial for us, thank you for that question. If another person have a question, I can take it. Choma said, bring on the journey towards completeness and wholeness, but your external environment remains the same, old and toxic. How does one stay focused on becoming whole without being dragged back into the old self? One of the things that I'm learning, and I've learned so well now, is understanding what I call the law of liberty. The law of liberty is so powerful. That it means this person have his potency to act and to speak and to act, to behave from a certain flow where he's streaming from. And so when we begin to tag people at toxic or environment at toxic, is a reflection of our inner capacity to be able to absorb situation without situation absorbing us. So when we use language like toxic or environment is not whole, what happens is that we are undermining our capacity to influence our situation, and we have allowed ourselves to be undermined by situation. Where I'm going about law of liberty is where, if I know I have a choice to be silent, I have a choice not to be silent. I have a choice to keep quiet. For instance, let's say, I'm going somewhere and I'm putting my thoughts together. And as I'm putting my thoughts together, I want to be silent a bit so that I'm organizing my thoughts because I'm going on an assignment. And maybe you like to talk, and you thought that when you're talking and I should respond to you to show validation, you are seeking for external validation. But when you understand what we call the integration of mind, respecting my mind and I respect your mind. Oh, this person that I'm talking to, maybe he is, let me respect the fact that this person is XYZ, this person's motive is like this person's idea is like this. When I am going to think that the ideal situation will be that as I'm laughing, another person will be laughing. Sorry, that's where we make a mistake. Or because I respect this person should respect me. You want to control externally. That's not holistic. Becoming complete and holistic is ability to modify your mental construct, to be able to interpret things from not separating them. Oh, this person have a lower energy, I'm sending my energy, high energy, and the person bring. No, ability to incorporate your high energy and the low energy and still remain the same. That's completeness and that's wholeness. I teach a lot. I teach a lot. Now, when you are teaching, you will see people writing, joking. They can apparently be joking. They could be talking. And you might think, oh, why am I in my class you're talking? Before, I used to be irritated. Irritation is resistance. Irritation is non-acceptance. But you see, to accept those people means I have recognized the law of liberty, that they have law of liberty, they have their choices. And I will stay in that path and not allow the other person, just respecting it. It's very difficult to modify your mind. That's why the Bible says renew your mind. When you continue to renew your mind, you begin to expand. And the more you expand, you can apparently absorb other people. Don't forget that I could be, once in a while, when I get a question, I'll go back. So, dragging yourself into old is because you have not found your higher self. If you find your higher self, your interpretation will change. Your perspective will change. Your definition will change to your higher self. That's why he said, life doesn't happen to us. Life happens from us. Guard your heart, for out of it are the issues of life. I'm not perfect in it. I'm not saying I'm still working on my own end, really, because we're workmanship. But where I am targeting is where your external validation or responses can only be interpreted from my higher self, not from my lower self. Your lower self will be irritated. Your lower self will be defensive. Your lower self will be resistant. Your lower self will complain. Your lower self will blame. Your lower self will hurt. But that's apparently when you talk about your ego self, because that's when you're still in the level of ego. But when you begin to ascend to your essence, which is from your real value, what happens is that you begin to do a work of acceptance. Acceptance is not indifference. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is not resignation. They are far from it. What is acceptance? As it is what it is. It is what it is that somebody doesn't want to talk to me. Is it what it is? The person doesn't want to reciprocate me. It is what it means because the person disappointed me. It is what it is because the government is doing what they're doing to have to do. I've accepted it, and that's what it is. Acceptance is where you now let go of defense, of resistance, or complaint, or blaming, or hurting. You see how it's so powerful? Before, you were defending, and defending creates tension. You were resisting. Resistance creates confusion and hurting. You were complaining and blaming. But when you begin to accept and surrender to the flow of the moment, what happens now? You begin to deal with more from a place of compassion. In fact, one of the characteristics of a great leader is compassion. Compassion will help you to reduce judgment, tag, labeling, complaining. When you begin to move inner richness, you begin to have a flow of what we call compassion, empathy, sympathizing with people, not judging them. Because the moment you judge, you are going to judge from the place of higher place or higher standard. And don't forget that all of us have. Please, Mr. Patrick, if we do not classify them, how best can we relate with each other, each person, based on their level of awareness or knowledge? Thank you. I like this. Now, understand that because of our evolutionary process, our training, our exposure, there's a scripture that says something, is that we heard the same thing, but they did not mix it with faith. And so it did not profit them. So you heard the same thing, but you made a decision that I'm going to move myself higher, seeking my higher self. The Bible said, the day of a righteous man shine brighter and brighter. And people might decide to say, I don't want it to shine brighter. I want to still be in defensive mode. I want to still be in a resistant mode. I want to still be complaining and blaming or hurting. But you have said, from today, I have found my higher self. Nobody can hurt me again. Whatever they are saying is their opinion. Whatever they are putting is their own attitude. My mental attitude has been changed, has been upgraded to be able to interpret from a place of wholeness, not from the place of separation. What I mean by separation, let's say, for instance, you get into an office. There's a particular colleague of you who will always, maybe like you are singing, and as you're singing in the expression or humming, the person will say, stop humming. You are disturbing me. Stop humming. I said, what is wrong in humming? Just accept that person is in a state. Don't judge that person. Oh, don't you know humming is a good life, is a joyful atmosphere. Once you start classifying that person from your standard, you are not in harmony. We have always said, harmony, honor, you see happiness. Disharmony, dishonor, you will now see unhappiness. Just accept that person. That I pray that you come to this level of aesthetic life so that you understand that there's wellness in joy. I'm just using that as an example. Or maybe, for instance, okay, you are in the house, you like loud music, and the other person doesn't have, like, doesn't prefer loud music. So you only read when you have loud music, because you were trained maybe from park side, maybe like your house was around the park, Nonsi area, mark. So you develop that mentality and you constructed yourself so you can actually, there are people who can sleep under the sun. Those are the people who cannot sleep under the sun. So because now you sleep under the sun and other people don't sleep under the sun, based on the condition of your mind and your mental attitude, you start now classifying them. You misjudge them. You completely misjudge them. So see them from the point that is their mental regiment, how they have been indoctrinated. That's how they are functioned. That's who they are. I mean, for instance, I prefer not to sleep with light. I want to turn off all the light. It becomes so dark. Let's say you now have a spouse who like a bit of light. You see, you can now answer, oh, I don't like light. That's defending. That's blaming. That's categorizing. That's apparently pointing of hand. I don't like this light. The fact that you are going to be in that space, how do you now modify it? That's what your higher self will begin to respect the other person. How do you now connect with yourself so that within the integration of your lower life and what you call higher life, will be able to not defend the other person. That's completeness. That's wholeness. I wish I know some of these things as I was growing. It's so powerful, really. It's so powerful. That's why personal development is so powerful. And if you understand the inner work and the richness of our life, we'll begin to have responsibility. We'll begin to have light heart. Light heart is when we have open to varieties of options. One of the things that keep us perpetually in analysis, in disarray, is we are so opinionated. How you know that you're opinionated? You think that whatever you're doing is superior to other people. In fact, what hurts you means that you're opinionated. What it means that you did not allow other people to express themselves and interpret it from the place of where they are speaking from. And that's why let me tell you, thank you for joining us. It's understand that the richer you are within will be able to absorb and interpret richly from your rich point of view. The way I see things literally now is different from how I have seen things 10 years back, 5 years back, 2 years back, even 1 year, even 6 months. Because I'm on that evolutionary process where I want to find my larger self, my higher self, to find an expression externally. Thank you so much. I hope it makes sense to you, Asoko. Thank you so much. If you have any question, please drop it. It's more interactive. So, how do you develop a richer you? I have a few things while I'm concluding. Number one, and I learned this thing from a lady who was in the camp where they were killing people. And she developed 5 concepts, and I've been studying it. And this is how, when I read something, I develop my mind, and I want to wrap it and flow with it. So I'm going to be giving you 5 things that will show your richer self. Number 1 is love it. Love it. I want to say something here. Every time you have a challenge and you find yourself complaining, it devalues you. It drains your capability. It dishonors you and drag you to the same problem. Let's say problems are base things. Let's say problems are deconstructing. let's say problems are not pleasurable. They are not pleasurable. But now, let's say for instance now, you are a lover. And lovers doesn't mean you love human beings. You also love problems. When you reconstruct your mind in the midst of scarcity, in the midst of trouble, in the midst of unemployment, in the midst of, okay, I've been married, or I don't have a child, oh, in the midst that I've been struggling. If I'm using that word struggle, deconstructed you and put you in a pond. But, what she did was say, you know what? I'm not going to move outside from loving it. And it's a concept that, the Bible said, if your enemy hunger, give them food. If your enemy oppress you, pray for them. So, invertly, what happens is that when enemy attack us, we attack the enemy. Attack plus attack create a negative loop. It brings a continuation of negativity. And so you see, the negative loop keep in that loop. But you see, when love meets adversity, it begins to shift, begin to create neutrality. And so there's no correspondence. So they are now inverts. That inverse method begin to release the tension or the effect. How do I mean? So I think I was washing my plate today, and there was a lot of timing to go for my next engagement, and tension started rising. I just recall, I said, love washing the plate. Automatically, it seizes the focus on that pain of washing, and I was neutral instantly. You just say, love washing. And the moment I upgraded myself, that's what we talk about higher life. Oh, the higher life is not because is a different thing. It's just a thought that is higher than before, a thought that is higher than the previous thought. So the thought was saying, you don't have time. Another thought said, love it. It changes the feelings. It's changing the definition. And you see, it might slow you down. And once that slowdown comes in, the richer you overwhelms that. Love it. Last night, I had too many things because I had too many engagements. And usually when I have too much engagement, my head is full and you're not sleeping well. Initially, I say, I don't sleep well. No, I love the fact I don't sleep well. You see, check the connection between hate and love. Check it, how it impacts on you. They are very simple, but if you begin to be an observer of your word, you begin to find out that certain higher level of language is enriching, and it comes from a place of enrichment. But when you use certain language, they are depleting. It comes from the place of depletion. Some of these, experiment them. And a simple thing, if your enemy hurt you, pray for them. It reverses. The second one is, somebody said, Unity said, please, sir, talk about more of your like sleeping with lights and the other person doesn't. How can you handle this without misunderstanding? Very well. You see, our mind, the construction of our mind, creates rigidity and attachment. And when we say non-attachment life, means that don't allow situation to condition you. Allow yourself to interact with situation. Sleeping with light was because when I was young, without light, in our house, my dad would want to turn down the light completely, like a small thing. and everywhere is dark. So growing up, it becomes like an attachment. It has constructed my mind, and now there's a state of my mind which I have adapted without flexibility. So our mind could be rigid or our mind can be flexible. Our mind can be conditioned, our mind can be unconditioned. So when we talk about conditional living, it is when we have allowed certain attachment to override our opinion, to override our preferences. So we now have a preference based on experiences. Now, but if you have what we call flexible mind, you know that sometimes there's light and sometimes there's no light. The other person probably would have been, the parents were putting light because they were afraid. They like light. There are people who cannot stay in darkness. So now, two of you had come in. You have to first of all accept that there's no one way to live this life. That's what we say. How do you reconstruct your mind to begin to interrelate and utilize the uniqueness into your advantage? Otherwise, you'll continue to be constant trouble. So what it means, first of all, acknowledge that because you like to sleep with light, another person may not like it. How do you reach a compromise? Define it. That's what they say. That one of the things that create our belief system is experience. Our experience is not supposed to create our belief system. Our belief system was supposed to help us interact with situation. But we find out it's the other way around. And that's why attachment comes in. So the first one, once you acknowledge it, first of all, become flexible. Begin to say, okay, I can adapt. Our mind has the capacity to adapt, to change. If you leave your village now and move to another place, you will see that this same you that didn't used to like something, over a period of time, through experience, through no option, you will be adapted to it, because that's how flexible our mind is. It can be retrained, it can be regained, it can be reinstructed, it can be remodeled, it can be reconstructed. And that's why we say renewing your mind on a daily basis. So you can renew your mind to accept that plan. And that's why the power of love comes in. Because I love this guy, man, I will try sleeping without the light off. You see how love it can change the situation. You love the guy, you don't want to lose him, you don't want to have misunderstanding. The power of love will come over there. The second one, I hope I've helped you on that question. Thank you. Yeah. Tobechuku, thank you for joining us. Now, the second one is awareness. If you become an observer of life, you begin to observe your thoughts. Why are you thinking this pattern of thought? You begin to observe your feeling. Does that feeling align to your best, or does it bring the worst out of you? So there's always a superior awareness that we need to come. You see, when we suffer, any form of suffer, or when we're in discomfort, is a question of certain awareness, which is illumination, which is enlightenment. The more you're enlightened, the more your dark part diminishes. Let me say that. The more you're enlightened, the more your dark part could be struggles. Dark part could be pain or hurt or blaming. But the more you are aware, you begin to incorporate a certain ideology until you form new ideology. You form new mind form that will help you overcome. But because we don't pursue awareness, heightened awareness, it becomes a major problem. So we think that things will always be the way it has always been. No. So awareness is beginning to see what causes me to feel this way. Why am I feeling this way? Because sometimes they were unconscious beliefs that we have not brought into consciousness that still affect us. Like for instance, I gave this in. I used to have phobia, claustrophobia, where I wouldn't want to be in confinement. I'm almost closing now. Be in confinement. But suddenly I realized that I can thrive in confinement now because I know that it was just an imagination. And now that thing started from somewhere that I was locked in a house and they went out with the key. So I couldn't access everywhere. I was crying. That created an experience that I did not dealt with. So, but now when I recall that time that happened, and now put another awareness that confinement is just part of life. As long as the air is there, there's nothing will kill you. Stay there, relax, you'll get a help. The third one, oh yes, diminishes. That's a very powerful word. The more you are enlightened, the more your dark path, trouble, pain, challenge, it diminishes. Because the higher you go, you now see from a broader perspective. Now, once you now begin to acknowledge more options, because higher place give you more options, more choices, more avenues. That's apparently what higher place does. Like I say that when you grow higher, your choice will now be amplified. It will not be based on scarcity. The third one is live above duality. Live above duality. What duality means is there's always going to be pain. There's always going to be sweet. There's always going to be night. There's always going to be day. It is our attachment and grip that help us to stay in one path only. It cannot be one path. It will never happen. There are going to be changes and growth. And as long as changes and growth occurred, well, that means that there are going to be discomfort and comfort. So how do I incorporate this? It's a mental model to realize that you can use both of night and day, heat and cold, having and not having, as an instrument to navigate. So when you are in discomfort, you know that it's transient. It's not permanent. Because everything is temporary. It is our attachment that creates, like we have to be in stagnation, but we know it can't work. Change and growth, development, maturity will always cause different spaces. How do I begin to incorporate discomfort and comfort, pain and less pain? Oh, rejection and non-rejection, lack and prosperity. When you begin to retrain your mind that these things, both of them are temporary. Some days you have more money, some days you don't have more money. Some days you can sleep, some days you cannot sleep. Some days you can be accepted, some days you cannot be accepted. Some days you meet nice people, some days you won't meet nice people. Some days you meet people who will pay you back good, and some days you meet people who will pay you back evil. So when you begin to come into such high awareness, you now say, how do I now incorporate this to find my solid path? We need to think beyond one extreme. I think I read something in Ecclesiastes say, do not be in two extreme. Do not be too right. Do not be too wrong. I mean, I'm just phrasing it. So it means have a neutral mind. A neutral mind is so powerful than having too much positive mind and negative mind. That's the place of duality. But a neutral mind will begin to utilize both ends. I think I'll be rounding up because we just have 1 hour. So I can release people. So I've talked about love it, come aware of it, and the next one is go beyond duality. Don't go to the extreme of being too comfortable. Don't go too of being discomfortable. Don't be too acquainted to depression. Also find a way to utilize depression as a kickstarter to redirect you into a beautiful life. And that's why I say, for ashes, I will give you beauty. For oil of gladness, I will give you. For heaviness of heart, I give you oil of gladness. So when you begin to go beyond duality, then you can navigate the detours of what and utilize them. I want to stop here. It's been so amazing. Please, I want to have comment and feedback. I mean, we will continue the other 2 points. I will give it to you in our next class if you come. They are so powerful. I wish I don't have to stop, but we have 1 hour so we can respect the boundaries of everybody. Thank you so much. I want to have feedback. If you have any feedback, please. Thank you, Catherine, for joining us. It's an amazing time with everybody. Does anybody have the last question so we can call it a quit? But otherwise, please just type in the comment what you're learning. Are you going to lead yourself from where you are to a better you? Are you going to have an inner richness so that your external world will be richly blessed? The more you are rich inward, the more you're going to be rich externally. The more you lead yourself, the more you're able to lead others. If you cannot lead yourself and influence yourself to betterment, it's likely you can't lead other people into betterment. Thank you so much. I am here if you have any leadership issue or where I can help you. Don't forget, please reach me in all our social media account or on next Saturday. The upper Saturday, we are going to be doing Standout Omen. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be amazing because we're going to talk about what we call the seeker's gain. Seeker's gain. We say, seek, you shall find. Seek, you shall find. Yeah, thank you, Choma. Yeah, keep developing your richer self. The life is in your richer self. Greater is he that is in you than he that's in the world. So the more richer you are, the more your external life changes. It changes your intonation, it changes your voice, it changes your skin, it changes your interaction and your definition. Can I have more feedback so we can call it a quit? Thank you very much. Keep following us, and I'm able to help anyone. Special thank you so much, sir. It was enriching and enlightening indeed. Thank you for this feedback. Please invite your friend. Let's make this room more popular, and so that we can help people move them from the lower life to a higher life, to a lower thinking to a higher life, to a richer, more richer self of them to unlock themselves and their potential. Thank you. Have a great week. Let me have